G'day there guys, Marky here, and welcome back to another episode of r/relationship advice. Hope you're having a bloody good day. Now I want you to sit back, relax, chuck a prawn to the barbie. Let's get right into it. Posted by user Told Him the Truth, titled, Am I the asshole for telling my dad the real reason why I don't want to go on vacation with him and his family and potentially ruining his marriage? I am a 17-year-old male. When I was around 9, my dad, 39 male, started seeing a friend of my mum's. He cheated on my mum. They married, and they now have 3 kids together. My dad asked for custody, and he was granted to have me on weekends, and he seemed happy to have me and always tried to include me in everything, but it was kind of weird and frustrating. He even tried to make me call his wife Mum, and went for full custody several times. Since being with his wife and making me accept his new family was more important than spending actual time with me alone, I stopped going to his house. When I was 14, he tried to fight for full custody after my mum started dating my stepdad, who's a nice guy, but I told him to stop. The other reason why I stopped going, I never told my dad this one, is because his wife was so hostile towards me. My dad used to pay attention to me when I was there, so I think that she didn't like it that way, and one day told me behind my dad's back that I was an obstacle to my dad's happiness and that I should just stay with my mum full time. Their anniversary was 5 days ago. I didn't want to go, but he called my mum to threaten that if I didn't go, he would go to court. He took his 4 kids, including me, his wife, his parents, and his parents-in-law to celebrate at a nice restaurant. Once there, he said that he had 6 tickets for vacations. I didn't say anything, but then he looked at me and said, "One is for you," and I said, "Thanks, but I'm not going." He seemed angry and said, "Okay, I had enough. Why don't you want to go?" "Just because," I said. But then he asked the same question 5 more times, so the 6th time I said, "Because I hate your wife." And then he started asking why, over and over again, so I ended up telling him the mean things that she said to me. He was seemingly uncomfortable, but told us to finish our meal. No one talked for the rest of the night, and after we finished, I asked my stepdad to pick me up. I haven't spoken to my dad since. He just sent me a message asking if I've changed my mind about the trip, but I said no. My cousin told me that my dad is staying at my grandparents' now. His wife texted me yesterday calling me a brat and asking if I was happy for potentially destroying my half-sibling's home life, but I just ignored her. My cousin says that the kids are hurt and are crying because my dad isn't at home, and she says that I should just have said other things, or agreed, and then tell him later that I wasn't going. I think this is just so incredibly messy, and they say one thing but do another. Your dad had every right to hear this from you. There was no need to cover this all up. You're old enough to voice your feelings. And I feel as though you made it more than obvious that you didn't want to say this in public, that this was not the time and place to say this, yet he made you say it in front of everyone, in front of the whole family. Surely he had some inkling of what you were going to say. That's not your fault for the words that came out that he forced out of you. I'm gonna go not the asshole for this one, OP. In the comments, Davey Captain says, "Not the asshole, and your cousin can shut the hell up, and your stepmother can start taking some responsibility for her actions too. Your dad does seem to be trying to do right by you though. I'd cut him some slack. It's unusual for parents, fathers, not to unquestioningly choose their new partner over their old kids, and he does seem to believe you. My sister told our father what our stepmother was like to her, rude and dismissive, and he hasn't spoken to my sister for a decade now because she disrespected his wife." Grim Salem 666 says, "Not the asshole. You were put in a really awkward position, and you were signaled out by your dad at a restaurant full of people you probably didn't want to be near. Aside from his parents, I'm hoping they're good people. Let's take the obvious facts in this that make you not the asshole. 1. Your dad cheated on your mum with one of her friends. 2. He forced you into a family role you weren't comfortable in and insisted on having a one-on-one talk with you. 3. Your mum's friend/infidelity partner to your dad is hostile, as you mentioned, and has probably verbally harassed you more than you let on in this post. And 4. Despite you giving your dad an answer, he still texts you later asking if you're still going. My only advice is if you still want a relationship with your dad, go to him. Tell him one-on-one how you feel. Everything. If you want someone there with you, bring someone you trust to be a neutral third party. Tell him simply, 'Dad, I love you, but I really dislike how you went about everything in my life, trying to take me from my mum multiple times, forcing me to try and be a happy family with the other woman that you not only cheated on my mum with, but someone who was insanely hostile to me, someone who has been sending me texts blaming me for ruining your marriage, when all I did was get overwhelmed and frustrated at you pressuring me to do things again. I love you, but I can't handle you forcing situations on me and not even trying to get my input on it or ask how I feel about it. My feelings matter too, not just yours, and all you've done is think about yourself and how you feel. And if things don't change, by 18, I'm going to stay with my mum permanently. Or something along those lines. It's up to you, of course. You don't have to say anything. You don't even have to reply to your dad. You are clearly hurt. Yeah, he didn't know about how she treated you, and yeah, you didn't tell him, but that doesn't change how he acted. He forced you into situations over and over again, and you got fed up. No one blames you for that, and I honestly hope this marriage does fail, because at the rate that it was going, your stepmom would have probably turned their kids against you. She will probably still try to do that, and most likely succeed. I do suggest therapy for this because it sounds like your stepmom put a lot on you. I also would recommend you telling your mum everything if she isn't already aware. If your stepdad is also a nice guy like you said, maybe confide in him too. You need someone to talk to about your feelings who won't be one-sided, but still will comfort you. Your feelings are valid. You're allowed to feel hurt. You're allowed to feel angry. And please, for the love of all things good, block your stepmom, but also show your dad the texts. This kind of behavior isn't warranted for anyone. And now, onto the update. Well, since a lot of you guys have been messaging me, asking about my situation, and I'm finally done with my finals, which means that I have time, here is an update. I didn't show my father the mean messages that she sent me, as many of you suggested, because I don't want this woman going around saying that I destroyed her life and all of her crap, so I didn't really do it and I won't. That's on her. My dad has been so apologetic, and a few days after I posted here for the first time, he picked me up to hang out, just the two of us. He apologized and even cried for not realizing before what the issue was. He said it was never his intention to make me feel that way. He promised he would never let her get between us again. He begged me not to hate him. I don't know where he got that from, as I love him, because he doesn't want me to cut him off since he wants to be there for my wedding and also as a grandpa to my kids, and then he got a little emotional saying how much he loves me, etc. He basically promised to be a better father. He asked me if I changed my mind about the trip, and I said yes, I'll go, it'll be just me, my dad and his kids. It will be in August, and I know she is furious for being excluded, but hasn't texted me or anything. So that's it. My dad and I talk more often, and we also hang out more. I've been to his house a couple of times, just for a few hours, but his wife and I just ignore each other. So that's it, I guess. I'm going on the trip with my dad and my half-siblings. Someone asked me about the relationship I have with the boys. Well, we get along, thus we can't really do a lot of things together since we have different interests. They are 8, 7, and 5, and all male. But I love them, and I know they love their big brother. They say it, lol. Since some of you texted me to know how things are going on, here is a little update. My dad thought that it was a great idea to ask my girlfriend to come with us instead of his wife. I was hesitant at first, but then my girlfriend said that she wanted to come with us, so it's going to be my dad, his 3 kids, me, and my girlfriend. It's great. I can finally have time alone with my dad without her around. And now, on to the final update. She lost my trust. I've shown her, and only her, some of the messages that my dad's wife sent me a couple of months ago. There, she was insulting me for ruining her marriage. I didn't want my dad to see the messages because I didn't want to cause any more drama. While we were on a trip a couple of weeks ago, my girlfriend unlocked my phone and showed my dad the messages, even though I told her I didn't want to. My dad got mad at me for not showing him the messages before, but didn't say anything else for the rest of the trip. I got really mad at my girlfriend and have barely spoken to her since. The thing is that my dad and his wife are not in a good place now. Clara already has moved to her parents, and my siblings stayed with my dad. According to my dad, this is a break to rethink the whole relationship. But I feel like garbage.
Dad seemed so happy before I told him why I hated his wife, and now this has just gotten worse. It seems like I destroyed my dad's happiness, and, which is worse, my siblings. My dad says that this isn't my fault, and that I'm the one who has to forgive him. That doesn't prevent me from feeling like I destroyed their happy family life. I don't think I can trust my girlfriend after this. Comments. Dude, your girlfriend may have overstepped here. I can see why you'd feel like she has betrayed your trust. We all deserve agency to deal with our issues. However, sometimes you gotta be cruel to be kind. This part right here concerns me a lot. Quote, the thing is that my dad and his wife are not in a good place right now. Clara has already moved to her parents, and my siblings stayed with my dad. None of this is on you. The general tone of your post just screams, my own issues make me suck at advocating for myself, and I need external help to stop accepting abuse. Dude, your partner being shit to one of your sons is an excellent reason to re-examine the whole relationship. If your dad hadn't done that, he would have just been a shit father. Whatever they decided to do about their marriage is on them. If you reconsider just why you don't deserve a loving father that stands up for you. You do. We all do. Take care, OP. Darian Lilly says, that scene in the restaurant, though, shows the dad has zero emotional intelligence. Tell me 6 times. He shouldn't have brought so much pressure to the situation. He needs to sort out his ways of dealing with stuff. Wait, the woman who banged her friend's husband is not a good person? Poor OP's cheated dad. How could he have known? To be serious though, OP needs to stop trying to carry everybody else's baggage. You are not ruining anything by protecting yourself and telling the truth about someone's behavior. If they don't want to experience the consequences of treating him like shit, then they need to behave like decent people. He is also way too forgiving towards his father. I hope he treats his potential future children better and doesn't take his dad as a role model. Quote, his wife texted me yesterday calling me a brat and asking if I was happy for potentially destroying my half-sibling's home life. I nearly dropped my phone laughing at this hypocritical bullshit. Seems self-reflection is really low on her list of character traits. Our next post is by user Krenetic, titled, my son managed to read our will and it's destroying our family. I'm going to preface this by saying I love all 3 of my sons equally. They are 29, 24, and 22. It is my unequivocal truth. It's just that my ex-wife's involvement with my oldest son has really introduced a lot of toxicity and complications in our life. After years of emotional and financial abuse, my wife and I have made a very conscious decision to completely cut my ex-wife out of our lives once my son turned 18. We let him have his relationship with his mother without any interference from us or any negative words. I disagree with how a lot of their relationship is, but I have kept my mouth shut to keep the peace. After losing literally everything after my divorce, I have built a new business with my wife, and it's doing very well. All 3 of our sons work in the business. A week ago, all the kids were over for lunch. I was stupid and left our recently drafted will on my office desk, and my oldest son managed to see it. Our company and our home was willed to my 2 youngest sons. My oldest was given a trust that pays out some money every 5 years. I feel like I have to explain myself over why the will was laid out as it was. My ex-wife still has a lot of influence over my son, and at the suggestion of our lawyer, created the will this way so she couldn't interfere in the company and home. If she were to pass away before us, the will would immediately be rewritten to divide the company and home equally. The plan was to explain this to our son gently and not for him to see it without any context. My son was understandably upset, but his behavior that day exceeded all levels of decency. He stormed downstairs, threw things around, and used disgusting language against my wife and I. Our sons nearly got into a fist fight. I am devastated. I have already apologized and forwarded him emails to my lawyer telling him I want the will to be changed to split everything equally, but the damage is done. He's now spreading horrible lies about us and his brothers to everyone in the family, even to the point of accusing us of being racists. He is half Indian, half white. Brothers and my wife are so hurt hearing this. It couldn't be any further from the truth. It's the same thing my ex-wife liked to accuse us of over the years. He has refused to come into work since last week, and I've been scrambling to do a lot of his work. I don't know how to fix this. He won't take my calls. My ex-wife has used this situation to make absolutely insane posts on Facebook. I'm considering legal action over, but I know that will just add gasoline to the fire with regards to my son. I'm not sure how to salvage this, and I'm really afraid that some of the things he's said won't easily be forgotten. My younger sons have already been questioned on social media by their cousins about the racism accusations. It's a very uncomfortable thing to approach. My wife is also not over the names that she was called by him, even though she says she is. In the comments, "Hi, unrelated to the main question which is being covered well by other commenters. As a lawyer, I wonder whether you could prepare your will with a contingent bequest that left his share to a trust if his mother was alive, but to him absolutely if she predeceased him. That way you wouldn't have to remember to change it if your ex died. People have a depressing low rate of updating their wills. A lot of litigation arises from the need to fix problems arising from this. Alternatively, think about leaving everything to a trust, or two trusts. A trust would provide a firewall protecting the assets from personal financial disasters or mismanagement of any of the children or a trading company. And two trusts, one for the home and one for the business, would enhance this. Trustees would ideally be at least one independent trustee, your lawyer or their trustee company, and your wife, you, and another family member, such as a sibling of yours, etc., in case you do. Having your sons as trustees would be likely to generate trustee conflicts. Perhaps more relevant to the main question, I think your son's problem is that you haven't even, from what your post says, divided your estate in equal 1/3 shares. And if his share is ring-fenced by a trust, you seem to have left the two most important family assets in your two sons from your current marriage, absolutely. Your son's reaction is uncalled for, but his hurt is understandable. I expect that this is going to blight your and your wife's relationship with him for some time, unfortunately. And I personally wouldn't rewrite your will to simply equal thirds because it doesn't deal with the real problem you anticipate, and it's not going to mollify him anyway. Speak to a good estate planning lawyer, plan strategically, and don't react impulsively. Good luck, OP. Another commenter says, "My bio father left me when I was 4. My stepdad married my mum when I was 7. My mum and stepdad, who I'll refer to as dad from here on out, then had a son, my little brother. Growing up, my dad would take my brother and I to Ohio to see my dad's side of the family. We would spend time with our grandpa, my dad's father, and the rest of my dad's family. Every year for 12 years. When my grandfather passed, my little brother got several $1,000s for his college education, and I got nothing. That hurt more than anything in my entire life, and I've had painful breakups. I've had multiple surgeries, I've been in horrible car accidents. It's not about the money. We weren't destitute, but we weren't super rich either. I already had a scholarship for school, so it wasn't like I was suddenly going to use this money for anything. It was the fact that my grandfather evidently loved my little brother more than me, and I didn't even find out until after he was gone." Berg Bauer replies, "Maybe not relevant, but did your grandfather know that you already had a scholarship for school? My grandfather willed almost all of his money to 3 of my cousins, they are siblings. There are 10 of us total in 3 different families, because their family is much less well off, by a huge margin, than the rest of ours, and he knew that they really needed the money for college and living expenses. Of course, there was never any ill will about it from any of us who didn't get much. Maybe something similar happened in your case. If not, I'm sorry." The Modlice replies, "This is the kind of conversation you have while alive. My dad has done very well for himself in his life. My dad's brother has not. When my grandmother dies, she is leaving the house to my uncle because he needs it more, and it would mean little, financially, not emotionally of course, to my dad and our family. The difference is that we all know this. My grandmother has talked extensively about this, and my dad and even myself and my brother, so that we will not feel left out of the ancestral home and question her love for us after her death for even a second." And now, onto the update. I have read everyone's advice, and there were many opinions that were very different. But at the end of the day, I do admit this was all my fault, and it's on me to make it right. I'm just not sure how. My son showed up to work today to tell me that he was leaving for another job. With a heavy heart, I accepted. We agreed on a severance package that was just a lump sum payment because he felt that I had cheated him by making him invest his time in a company that he was never going to be a part of. I broke down in tears and begged him to reconsider. I tried to explain and promised to be more transparent with the will process, but it seems to be too little too late. He had some very harsh words for me and made cruel accusations that I treated him poorly over the years and brought up situations that I literally had no control over. There were threats of fraud and discrimination and reporting me to the Labour Board, and I just gave in and went to the bank and had a bank draft made. I feel absolutely defeated because I knew he wasn't going to hear me. I asked if we could go for counselling, and he said only if I can give him back the years he wasted in the company. Through it all, I did see that I hurt him greatly, and I don't think I can ever make it like it was before. Maybe after he's had some space from me, I can try contacting him again. My wife and I and his brothers have been uninvited from his wedding in June. I am completely heartbroken. In the comments, Lollipop Lady says, I'm just happy your son was lucky enough to find out while you were alive and was able to confront you. There is still a chance to heal old wounds. It would have been awful for him for his father to die and then get this devastating news in his grief with no explanation or apology. I'm just interested in those stories that he had no control over and messed up on. LC Mum 1231 says, this story made me very sad for all parties involved, but especially your son. While I agree that children are not entitled to their parents' money, it's much more than that here. Imagine growing up with divorced parents who, for the most part, hate each other. Your dad starts a new family, has more children, you only get his time 50%. Not his fault, but it's unfair to you regardless. Your half-siblings get him 100% of the time, building that bond. You grow up with all sorts of effed up insecurities, but you try to get over it. You convince yourself that of course your dad loves you as much. You start to believe in that. You invest your time to work for him. You spend time with his family, and things seem good, and then this happens. You were right to feel less than. Insecurities validated. On top of that, your dad's explanation is, basically, he can't trust you as a full-grown adult to handle your own finances and business because of your mother. I'm sorry, but that hurts. Not saying it justifies his behavior, but he's going through some painful stuff. Froggy McNasty says, not to kick you while you're down, but at least now you know how he feels. You put him in a position where when you died he worked for his half-brothers, you literally put them ahead of him, and he did waste his life working for you. Wrote a will so he would have no part in the decision-making, just a check every 5 years, and made his half-brothers his bosses essentially once you died. You can't blame him in the least for reacting how he did. You betrayed him on a level that validated all the bullshit that your ex-wife spewed. So ask yourself, why would he want you to be a part of his family when you made it so clear that you didn't think he was worth being equal with your new one? F Your Mermaid replies, this was exactly how I felt after reading his original post. Who knows what else his eldest son had to have gone through after reacting so severely to the will. I hope his son finds peace and never has to worry about putting his own children in the same situation emotionally. What really sucks is that OP doesn't even see that his hatred for his ex has blinded him to what he's done to his son. I don't think he's intending for it to be this way, but that's just what it became. He hates his ex so much that he was willing to hurt his son for some perceived threat that may or may not happen. That he had so little trust in his son, wrote him off just on the chance that he might get to spite his ex. I hope the son gets some help, and that OP gets some help for himself because he majorly effed up and is too busy responding to comments trying to save face rather than address or ask what he can do now that this shit has hit the fan. Microgiant says, I have to wonder what the value of the trust that paid out every 5 years was. Was it remotely comparable to a third of the business that the oldest son thought he was going to be a co-owner of one day? Yeah, I call bullshit on that too. If he doesn't want his ex to have any influence over his eldest son in ruining the business, why not just pay him out a lump sum worth of a third of his company? He's not a child anymore who needs to have his money managed. I guess to wrap this one up, personally, it feels as though this is a case of missing reasons. As I always say, these posts are very biased to make the person writing it seem to be somewhat of a good guy, but you just dig into this a bit, you look at what their replies are in the comments. I feel terribly sorry for OP's son. I do wish that they find happiness in their life and they can move forward from this because, yeah, that's a massive time sink on one's life and a gigantic betrayal that OP doesn't seem to be at all sorry for. To me, it reads as though OP is sorry they got caught, but they don't seem to be making any actual moves towards reconciliation. What do you guys think of this one? Let me know in the comments down below. Anyway, that's where I'm going to end today's episode, guys. I do hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.